What is going on, everybody? Today is going to be a special episode, not only for me, but I think for others who may want to hear this message. I always come on here and I talk about Georgia Southern and Atlanta Falcons football, and it's pretty much been my passion for the last few years to do this podcast. And one thing about this podcast I love that I love about doing is looking at certain players, watching them grow, and seeing them become a better person of themselves. One thing we have to realize as fans, we are just that. We're fans. We go out, we want our teams to win, we want them to dominate the opponent, and we want the best for the team that we root for. And that will never change. That's one thing about me, and I know for anybody who's a fanatic, that would never change. But one thing I do love about being behind this microphone is watching certain individuals, try to make the best of a situation, be the best version of themselves, and go through adversity. And today I want to talk about pretty much probably my favorite player that's on Georgia Southern that don't really get talked about at all, and don't really get as much recognition when it comes to actually being a football player, trying to find their way of being the best that they can be. And I watched this kid grow from the days from the Chad Lunsford years, sticking it out, being on the team, finding a way to be and stay on the team, finding ways to get through adversity when things don't go as planned. People say certain things to try to diminish their confidence, but they try to come back and be the best they can be on the field. And I love stories like that. This is why I try not to talk individually about players, but I do have my picks. I mean, I think we all do. We all have our picks, and sometimes those picks are the guys that we see all the time. Also, there's another aspect of this that, there's players out here who are damn good and they just need the opportunity. And I want to talk about Tyrell Davis, cornerback safety for the Georgia Southern Eagles. Uh, I've watched him from day one when he came through Georgia Southern from North Carolina, and I knew that he could be something that some people probably didn't see. Even with the whole situation with the coach transferring or leaving and a new coach coming in, he went through a good bit of adversity. And even with all of that, he was able to shine. And I want to talk about his time at Georgia Southern and where it's going forward. So hopefully you guys will sit back and listen to this special episode that I wanted to do. I got his stats on my phone. Give me a second. I'm going to pull this up. 2021, he did get to play. And I think he did very well for himself. 29 total tackles, 20 of those were solo tackles, had an interception. And I thought at a young as a young football player, I thought he was on his way. I thought he was going to do great things, and I was rooting for him because one thing I do like to see when a kid goes out, may not be a starter, and get the chance to do good things, and when they get on the field, they do good things. That just shows you that these guys have the potential to be great. You just have to look at them a little bit closer. 2022 rolls around. He does not get to play. I think he was redshirted. Coach Clay Helton comes in, and he had his own vision of how he wants to do things. I mean, that's what happens when coaches come in. And my thing about that was, I know you're trying to bring transfers in to help what you have, and you may not know the players that you got, and there's no fault of the coach's own, but sometimes you have to look and see what you have, and sometimes they don't do that. I've seen plenty of kids come through Georgia Southern, which I won't name here, but I've watched them do great things, and just for the coach to overlook them, and they end up transferring somewhere else, and that's pretty much the end of their story. But one thing about Tyrell Davis that I've noticed, that he didn't give up. He did not give up. And one thing I will say, and I don't want to add myself into this or anybody else that may try to, give, certain kids shout outs or try to, talk good about players individually, because it's not about us. We're just here talking behind the mic about our teams or whatever the case may be. But one thing I will say is I knew what he had. I saw the potential of what Coach Clay Helton had in Tyrell Davis after, like I said, 20, almost 30 tackles and an interception in not so much playing time, when you could have made a case where he could have been on the field more, probably could have started. Well, after that 2022 season, I said that, look, I feel like this kid should be on the field more. He should be one of the better players on the team, and look out for him. He could be one of your better defensive backs that's being severely overlooked. So I don't know what happened, but he did get the chance to play. And that 2023 season, let me pick up my phone here. The 2023 season, he got to play. He got to play more. 65 total tackles, 36 of them were solo, 1 fumble recovery, 1 interception, and one of that interception was a pick 6 against ULM. It's what you see on the screen right here if you're watching that pick 6. One of the highlights of 2023, and it actually made me proud to watch a kid come from a different coaching staff, go through a season where they felt like he couldn't play, come back and have a season like that. And I thought, this is what it's all about. You bring guys in, and not just for Georgia Southern, but in college football or any form of sports. You bring a guy in, you bring guys in and pull the best, version of them out of them. I think that's just great coaching. Now I'm not going to say that what it was all just coaching. Sometimes these kids need a little bit of push. Sometimes these kids need a little bit of motivation. You also have to understand, these are young men trying to figure things out in life. They're trying to find where they need to go and navigate through so many things. They want to be a great football player. They're going to school. They got family. They're still young. They're trying to figure the world out. So like I said, when we're fans and we just look at the product on the field, sometimes it's bigger than that. And I love to be, also I love to be supportive of guys on our team or on our Georgia Southern Eagles, because it's all about that's the part of being a fan that a lot of people don't really look at. And that's what, for me, I love to look at that angle of a player. I love to look at that inside of a player. What are they about? What they can do? What they can make of themselves? And watch him in that 2023 season. I thought, look, he's on his way. He's going to be one of the better defensive backs on this team, probably in the Sun Belt, which I'm actually surprised he didn't get that many Sun Belt honors in 2023, but that's another story for another day. Going into 2024, once again, I thought that he was ready to go. I think he was actually named the starter, and I was really looking forward to seeing him. I could be wrong about being named the starter, because in the first game, he did not play against Boise State. Even if he did, he didn't have any stats. And I was like, okay, it is what it is. The second game, playing against Nevada, this is where I saw much more of what we saw in 2023. Tyrell Davis had 5 total tackles. 3 of them were solo. And I think he also had an interception in that game. Yes, he had an interception in that Nevada game. And I thought that this is what we're going to see going forward. It's going to be awesome to see him elevate his game for 2023. Unfortunately, that's not the case. And the reason why I'm saying thank you, Tyrell Davis, because not only you've been, a phenomenal player in my eyes, and I think you've been, such, a professional in an amateur sport. He has to hang his cleats up. He has to retire. And it is really unfortunate. He had an injury. I think it was either in a Nevada game. He had an injury that he could not return from, so he has to hang up his cleats. And when I got the news a few days ago, I'm going to be honest with you guys, it bothered me. Because when you see a kid basically grow up, and you're not that attached, but when you do this type of job and you're doing this podcast behind the mic and everything, and you are focused on the team, there are certain players that's going to stand out. And I feel like Tyrell Davis was that kid. And it really bothered me. And it probably shouldn't have bothered me as much as it did, because at first I was like, okay, he has to retire, and what happens next? Hopefully, he moves on to the next, journey of his life or whatever. But when I went to work the next day, it just, I don't know, for some reason it just kept bothering me. And I didn't know what to think about. I was like, yo, I've never met this kid. I don't know him from anything. Personally, I don't know him. I just know him as a football player. But for some reason, it really bothered me. And it also dawned on me that, sometimes in life there are some things that goes on in your life, some things to put in front of you, and it makes you have a purpose. And sometimes you can impact people from a distance. And I think that's something that we all, can kind of relate to now because of social media, but not even in that way. It's just that sometimes saying certain things and doing certain things can have an impact on so many other things. So when I get behind this mic, I always try to be mindful of what I say, good, bad, or indifferent. Even when it's negative, I still try to make sure that I'm saying it with the full force of my convictions and the passion of what I have. And it's never meant to be malicious. It's always because of a real, definitive reason, good, bad, or indifferent. And when I point out kids like Tyrell Davis, or when I point out kids like, Britton Williams, when I point out kids like Sean Pell Kissin, these guys that I felt deep, or even when you think of a guy like Jalen White, you look at these kids and know that these guys have the potential to be great, and you see it. It's just something about certain kids that you see not only on the field, but sometimes even off the field. When you learn more about them, you learn that these kids have the opportunity to be great. And sometimes, these coaches, and I'm not saying it's a bad thing or it's a knock on them, they're just not able to see with all of the hundreds of kids that they encounter throughout a year. And it's very unfortunate that Tyrell, has to end his career this way. But I'm pretty sure that he's holding his head up high, and he is still, being the best young man that he can be. But I just wanted to say that to say this: be mindful of what people can, what you may say during a win or a loss, or what you say during during the continuity of a season. You just never know who's watching. You never know who you may impact, because at the end of the day, they're human too. And at the end of the day, they have lives beyond what's on the field. And I wish nothing but the best for Tyrell Davis, his family, and everybody that's in the circle, because I know this is hard for them. It's hard to watch kids have to transfer out. It's hard for kids to go through injuries. It's hard for kids to, walk away from something that they love, which is, in this case, football. I want to thank you, Tyrell, because you made me realize, with all the things that's going on in college football, the money, the transfer portal, this NIL stuff, and how the NCAA is handling things, you did it the right way. You were loyal to the end. And unfortunately, the way things played out is not the best. Excuse me. The way things played out is not the best. You still were able to not only, do the best you can, but you have inspired, people as well. You may not know it, but for me, you gave me a reason to know that there's hope to continue to do this behind the microphone, and not just talk about wins and losses and stats and who's going to be around and who's going to be recruited and, who's going to transfer. You gave me a little bit of reassurance that there's some kids out here that want to play football and be the best they can be. And even when things don't go their way, they're still going to be the best that they're going to be. So I thank you. I appreciate you. Thank you for the years you was at Georgia Southern, even when times when you didn't have to be here, going through the adversity of having to sit, come back, and put up great numbers in my opinion, and and go all out for the sport that you love. I appreciate you. Thank you for everything, and hopefully, and now I ain't gonna say hopefully. I know that you're gonna be great wherever you go. I don't have much else to say, guys. Hopefully, you guys enjoyed the rest of your day. And just like I said, just be mindful, everyone. Just be mindful. You never know who's watching. You never know who's looking. And you never know what can transpire from what you say and do. All right, y'all have a good one. Y'all take it easy and y'all be blessed. Peace.